Hey everyone, welcome back. So last week we talked about post-inflammatory discoloration, and since that video went up, a lot of you guys have reached out to me on Instagram requesting videos on other types of hyperpigmentation as well. So this week we're gonna talk about melasma. So fading melasma is not entirely impossible, but it can be really tricky to deal with. So before we dive into what you can actually do about it, let's first cover whether you actually have it compared to other types of hyperpigmentation first. Then we'll dig into what you can actually do to help fade it and the best products out there to help you do that. And at the end, we'll quickly go over whether you should see a dermatologist and some of the other professional treatments that are out there. Okay, so let's just jump into it. So what's melasma? Melasma is a type of hyperpigmentation that's really common in women. There's an estimated 6 million women who have it in the US alone. By the way, that doesn't mean that men don't get it too, it's just that it's a lot more common in women. So what it looks like is kind of like large, dark patches on your skin. Usually you'll get it on your cheeks and your nose, but also on your forehead and your upper lip. And you can also get it on your body too, especially on places where the sun hits, so like the tops of your forearms. Melasma is not the same thing as a freckle or an age spot, so you can usually tell the difference by the size of the actual hyperpigmented area, because when it comes to melasma, it actually tends to be a much bigger patch than with freckles or an age spot. So if you think you do have melasma, there's no need to freak out because it's actually totally harmless. Melasma is not the same thing as melanoma, which is a type of skin cancer. But just because it's harmless doesn't mean that you don't want to get rid of it. So if you're on that journey, it can be really frustrating because melasma can be really stubborn and it can stay around for years or even decades. But there are definitely some things you can do to help move it along. Let's dig into the causes and triggers of melasma first. What causes melasma though? Well, melasma is caused by melanin overproduction. Why there's an overproduction in the first place isn't very well understood by researchers. By the way, melanin is just the natural pigment that creates your actual skin color. And if you have a darker skin tone and you tan easily or you have really dark hair, then you're much more likely to get melasma because your skin naturally has more of those melanin producing cells in the first place. So now you know what it is and what causes it. Let's talk about what triggers it. So there are two triggers. The first trigger is if your hormones change, and the second is if you're exposed to UV light, aka the sun. Let's dig into the first trigger. So you've probably heard of melasma being talked about as the mask of pregnancy. And the reason why this is because 10 to 15% of pregnant women are affected by this. Your pregnancy hormones naturally stimulate the melanin-producing cells, which causes them to produce more melanin, which then causes that hyperpigmentation. So if you're pregnant and watching this, I will definitely tailor some product recommendations to you because you have to be a little bit more careful with what you're putting on your face, especially since you're expecting. What if you're not pregnant? Did you know that 10 to 25% of women on the pill also get melasma? So if you're starting or stopping being on the pill, if you get an IUD or you're getting hormone replacement therapy, you can trigger your melasma. It can also pop up during your period. Not that we needed another reason to make periods worse, but yep, that's another one. So now let's talk about the second trigger, sun exposure. The sun is a big amplifying trigger for melasma. Even if you have some fluctuating hormonal changes, you might not get melasma until you start spending some time in the sun. So like if you go to the beach in the summer or you go away on a sunny vacation, then bam, melasma. So it doesn't matter what the underlying factor is, if it's your genetics, or if it's because you're changing up your hormonal levels, sun exposure is what could really tip you over the edge. So it could make that melasma appear, or it can also make it worse. So just avoid the sun, right? Well, it's not really that easy because melasma is also affected by heat and visible light. So even sunscreens that can protect you from skin cancer aren't even good enough. The thing you need to keep in mind is that not all sunscreens are created equal. So make sure you're using the right kind of sunscreen. As I mentioned in my sunscreens video, there are two main types of sunscreen. The first is chemical, which uses chemical filters like oxybenzone, which absorb the sun's rays and convert it into heat. And the second is physical, also known as mineral sunscreen, which uses physical filters to block out the sun's rays, like titanium dioxide or zinc oxide. So if you want to fade melasma, you definitely want to make sure that you're using the physical, aka mineral, sun blocking type of sunscreen. And the reason for that is the physical type of sunscreen will stop all of the light and the different wavelengths coming through into your skin. Chemical sunscreens just don't offer the same level of protection for melasma. Again, look out for a mineral sunscreen with physical blockers, so that's titanium dioxide or zinc oxide, an SPF of at least 30, broad spectrum protection, and don't forget to reapply every 2 hours. Okay, so my ride or die sunscreen is the Purito Comfy Water Sunblock with an SPF of 50. I find it doesn't really leave a white cast, and it's great if you don't like sunscreen. So there's no stickiness, it's a mostly water-based formulation, and it just kind of disappears into your skin. If you have a lighter skin tone, I really like this one by Josie Moran. It's the Argan Daily Moisturizer with SPF of 47. So it's another physical sunscreen, but it also has a tint in it and it's got moisturizing argan oil. So it's kind of like an all-in-one. My only issue with this is that there's only one shade. How is that even possible post-Fenty? Another mineral sunscreen I've been trying out lately is the one by Kinship. So the texture is a little bit on the stickier side, but apparently there's no white cast to it, and it's pretty nice to use so far. Also, the brand uses ocean recycled plastic for their packaging, so it's really sustainable. So I'm obsessed with sunscreens, and there is a lot more I can say about sunscreens. If you're interested in learning more about that, I have an entire video dedicated to it, so go and check that out. So there are definitely other ways that you can avoid the sun as well, like grabbing a hat when you go outside or walking on the shady side of the street. Basically, you just want to avoid sun exposure as much as possible. All right, so now you've got your physical sunscreen and you're gonna prevent your melasma from getting worse. What else can you do? Will it just go away on its own? So melasma can go away on its own, especially if you remove a trigger, like if you're pregnant and you deliver, or if you've stopped taking the pill. But it can also take years for it to go away on its own. So if you want to speed up that process, there are definitely products that can help you. Before we get into that though, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. So we're mostly talking about helping out with epidermal melasma, so that's surface level melasma here. But if you have more dermal melasma, because it affects the deeper layers of your skin, it's a lot harder to treat. So your best bet might be to seek professional treatment. Some of these might help, but I just want to check your expectations here. So the second disclaimer is if you are pregnant, then these next products and ingredients are not pregnancy safe and not recommended, but hang in there because I will have some alternatives that are pregnancy safe for you. Okay, so with that all said, let's finally dig into some brightening ingredients and some of my product picks. So first, I wanted to talk about chemical exfoliators. I feel like this year especially, there's kind of been like an explosion of different types of acids on the market, but glycolics are still the tried and true for hyperpigmentation. Alpha hydroxy acids, like glycolic acids, exfoliate your skin and remove dead skin cells on the skin's surface, which can help dark patches clear away faster than they would on their own. If you're gonna go this route, make sure you start with a lower concentration of exfoliating acids first, especially if you have darker skin, because you don't want to trigger that post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. So if you're new to exfoliating acids, I would really recommend the Ordinary's glycolic acid 7% toning solution. It's only $8.70 US. It's really affordable, there's no frills to it, but it's pretty effective. So La Roche-Posay also has a really interesting serum called the Melody Pigment Control Glycolic Acid Serum. It has 10% glycolic acid, so a little bit of a higher concentration than the Ordinary's toner, but it also has kojic acid in it. Kojic acid is really great. It's derived from mushroom-like fungi in the fermentation process, and it prohibits melanin production, resulting in a lightening effect. Alright, so next let's talk about retinoids. Retinoids are vitamin A derivatives that encourage cell turnover and prevent melanin production. And that's good because the melanin overproduction is what's causing that hyperpigmentation. But the downside is that they can make your skin much more sun sensitive, and as you know, the sun is one of those big triggers for melasma. So if you're gonna use a retinoid, make sure you only use it at night and definitely apply your sunscreen in the morning. Depending on how intense your melasma is, there are many different types of over-the-counter retinoids out there. Retinoids are tricky because you kind of want to slowly build up tolerance in your skin for it. Otherwise, your skin will peel and feel like it's really burning. I've definitely been there before. So my budget pick here is the Ordinary's 0.2% retinol in squalene. It's a great retinol to start building up that skin tolerance, and it's only $5. My drugstore favorite pick is a cult classic. It's the Neutrogena Rapid Wrinkle Repair Serum. You can pick it up for $27 from Ulta. It's great because it contains stabilized retinol and it shouldn't break you out. As for clinical strength pure retinols, I'd recommend for you to slowly build up to that because it can be extremely irritating. But if you have built up the tolerance for it, SkinCeuticals has one of the strongest retinols you can buy over the counter at 1% pure retinol. If you're vegan, Drunk Elephant has a retinol cream with 1% vegan retinol, and it also includes a triple peptide blend and vitamin F, which is nourishing, hydrating, and anti-inflammatory. And if you're in the US, you can pick up Different, which contains the active ingredient adapalene at the drugstore over the counter for $13. So the next ingredient is Arbutin. Arbutin is usually extracted from a plant called the bearberry plant, and it's kind of like a safer but still effective cousin to hydroquinone. Even though Arbutin is kind of a much safer option, it can still be really irritating. So just make sure you slowly introduce it into your routine. So one of my product picks in this category is the Ordinary's Alpha Arbutin 2% plus hyaluronic acid serum. It's a pretty good deal at $8.90. And if you have more sensitive skin, you can pick up the Good Molecules Daily Brightening Serum, which contains beta Arbutin, which is slightly less sensitizing, and you can pick that up for $9. The last ingredient I wanted to share is tranexamic acid. So tranexamic acid has been shown to reduce UV-induced hyperpigmentation in Asian countries, but researchers don't really know exactly the mechanism that causes it to work. So the Good Molecules Discoloration Correction Serum has been making a huge splash in the skincare community with their trademarked, 2% terasutic TX vector. Who comes up with these names? Anyway, it's a derivative of tranexamic acid, and it's meant to deliver that tranexamic acid deeper into the skin, which helps fade your hyperpigmentation. And it's still only $12. Okay, as promised, now we've got a pregnancy-safe ingredient, azelaic acid. So azelaic acid is produced by yeast that lives on our skin naturally, and it works by decreasing inflammation and increasing our cell turnover rates. It also reduces bacterial growth inside our pores, which helps fight acne as well. And this can be really great if you're hormonal and pregnant. A great product pick here is the Ordinary's Azelaic Acid Suspension 10%, which costs only $7.90 US. And it's kind of cool because it has this cream/gel-like texture to it, but it is a very high concentration at 10%, so just make sure you patch test it first. Another treatment that has been shown to help with melasma is microneedling. Okay, so I'm terrified of needles, and even thinking about it freaks me out, but I would be totally doing you a disservice if I didn't talk about this at all. It's exactly what it sounds like. Basically, you use a roller, kind of like a jade roller or a pen that's covered with a lot of tiny needles. Those needles all have different lengths, and they can penetrate up to 2 millimeters in your skin. Why would you want to roll all these tiny needles across your face? It can help stimulate collagen production, but it can also enhance the delivery of active skincare ingredients into the skin without creating any heat in the process. This is really important for melasma because heat can be a trigger. Also, when you're comparing it to something like laser, it creates less trauma in the skin and it tends to be a lot cheaper as well. The catch is that it can trigger an inflammatory response, leading to even more hyperpigmentation if too much trauma is induced. So if you're braver than me and you want to try it out for yourself, I'd suggest starting out with a derma roller with a shorter needle gauge, so you limit how much it penetrates into your skin and you decrease the risk of additional hyperpigmentation from an inflammatory reaction. You can try out the Beauty Bio Glow Pro Microneedling Regeneration Tool. It's a little bit more on the expensive end at $199, but throughout my research, this product kept coming up. And if you want to go that route, make sure you always derma roll after your serum or essence because it'll glide over your skin much more easily, and always clean it after with an alcohol spray, and don't forget the sunscreen. It's important because you're already causing some physical injury to your skin, so you don't also want to be hit with those damaging rays from the sun as well. Again, always be sunscreening. Now that we've gone through all that, you can probably connect the dots and kind of figure out that a lot of these products and treatments can be really irritating. So just make sure you're paying attention to your skin and you back off when you need to, because a lot of these products are really active and can be really irritating, especially because anything that causes heat or friction in the skin can stimulate more pigmentation to develop. So if you're using a bunch of these treatments, that could injure your skin and cause post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, and you can then get caught in this like bad cycle. So that leads me to, if you've been using these products and you're not really seeing any results, or you've got really, really deep dermal melasma, it's time to see a dermatologist. The best tools out there to treat it are a combination of prescription strength creams and in-office treatments. So as for prescription treatments, derms can prescribe bleaching agents or stronger retinoids than the ones we described earlier, like tretinoin. Bleaching agents like hydroquinone work by blocking melanin production. You can buy hydroquinone over the counter, but it's definitely not pregnancy safe, and you should really think about going to see a dermatologist if you're going to go there, because you're really dealing with some heavier duty stuff, and higher concentrations of hydroquinone can cause white spots to appear, and it can be really irritating. Other professional treatments like chemical peels and lasers can really help too, but they might not be great if you have darker skin because of the risk of inflammation leading to post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Chemical peels are pretty much just the exfoliating acids we talked about, but at a much, much higher concentration. The downside with getting chemical peels is that it's pretty likely that the melasma will come back, and that's because chemical peels work by removing the melanin that's already in the skin by exfoliating off that dead skin without really changing how much is actually being produced. So you might have to do multiple sessions and switch to a maintenance plan to prevent it from coming back. Lasers like the Clear and Brilliant fractionated laser are another type of professional treatment that can help by increasing cell turnover rates. Okay, so we went through a lot today, so I want to leave you with a couple thoughts if you're working on fading your melasma. The first is to be patient. At the end of the day, again, melasma can be really, really stubborn to treat, and there's not really kind of like a one-size-fits-all solution. Your experience of it is going to be totally different than anyone else's experience, and there's really no perfect treatment that works for everyone, unfortunately. There is no overnight fix for it, so if anyone is telling you there is, they are definitely lying. And the second is always be sunscreening. Melasma will bounce back real quick if you're not careful about sun protection. So make sure you've always got your mineral sunscreen with you. Okay, so that's it from me. As always, let me know if you have any questions in the comments section down below. And don't forget to give your girl a like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any more informative skincare videos like this one. And I'll see you next time.